Hello friends, welcome to my channel for the Hindu editorial analysis of August 7th. You can hit the like button, subscribe my channel and also give your opinion about the videos. And guys, you have been making comments, you have been giving your opinions. I'm really happy with that. It's really motivating for me and I assure you that all your comments are being considered and I will try to implement those in my videos. So let's move on to the article now. So coming to the first article, skill don't detain. See guys, this article is all about the no detention policy and the union cabinet decision with respect to that. See what happened is, recently the union cabinet has made a decision that the no detention policy will be only up to class 5th. Before it used to be up to class 8th. Now it is only up to class 5th. So what we'll do is, we'll look into the background first, then we'll move into the article. So the no detention policy is mentioned to us in the Right to Information Act. See guys, under this no detention policy, no child admitted in a school shall be held back in any class, or no child will be expelled from the school till the completion of elementary education. That is, he will be made to pass until class 8 and only in the class 8 he will have an examination to determine its future course. So in the crux format, you just remember in this way, that is up to class 8 he cannot be detained. Fine, so this is called as no detention policy. And guys, I would also like to make one more point. This no detention policy is a phenomenon which is related to continuous and comprehensive evaluation. Fine, see, this continuous and comprehensive evaluation is also mentioned under Right to Education Act. See, continuous and comprehensive evaluation is something in which it ensures that a child is not ranked based on the examination. That is, a single examination cannot determine the child. Rather, it looks into the prospectus of the child. It looks into each and every dimension other than academic. So it tries to bring in many dimensions to rank a child. So this is a concept which is prevailing in the West, and the Right to Information Act in the year 2010 brought in this. And this no detention policy is based on this principle of continuous and comprehensive evaluation. Fine. I hope the background is clear. So we'll move on to the article. This article tries to say that Indian elementary education system has been providing access to greater number of children, but the measure of its success is questionable. See, because of the implementation of RTE, many children were enrolled in school, but the quality of the education which is provided is questionable. And this article tries to say that if one evaluates our education system based on the skills, that is based on the skills which is acquired by the students, then the education system will score poorly. It is because our education system is based upon competition, test and scores. I hope even UPSC read this article. So this article tries to say that in spite of many policies, that is with respect to RTE policies, the dropout rate in the school has been more. For instance, it tries to bring in a figure. It says that in the year 2015, there was a dropout rate of 5% from the primary education, while it was 17% in the secondary education. And the important point to be noted is that the dropout rate was more in the government institutions. So this article tries to say that when Right to Education Act was implemented, it appeared that it brought in all the solutions to uninterrupted schooling. So the section 16 and 13 was introduced, and it was under this sections the no detention policy was carried out, that is until class 8. So as I have given you in the background. So this article tries to say that this no detention policy should not be removed now. Right now there is no importance with respect to that, because this article tries to bring in many other dimensions and many other shortcomings in our education system. For instance, this article tries to say that teacher education, teacher qualification is under a cause of concern, and even the government is following bad recruitment policies, and there is a confusion with the institutions with respect to their goals. And with these many shortcomings, the decision of the Union Cabinet to introduce detention of students who fail in the class 5th or 6th may again increase the dropout, as was the case earlier before the introduction of RTE. So see, one could imagine, even though no detention policy up to class 8 has been introduced, there has been a dropout rate of 5% and 17% in secondary education. So it clearly shows that no detention policy is important. And this article tries to say that because of this introduction of detention at class 5th will increase child labor and could bring many problems. And even this article tries to bring in an interesting scenario. It tries to say that building and schooling system without testing, that is without examination, is very difficult task. But one should also look at the scenario which is prevailing in an economy. For instance, it tries to say that there is a great demand for the skilled labor in India, and there is a mismatch with respect to the youth who is preparing for this labor, that is skilled labor. See guys, India has a demographic dividend. See, demographic dividend means there is a more proportion of working people in the total population. That is, it indicates that more people have the potential to be productive and they can contribute to the growth of the economy. So one could say that 15 to 59 age group can be considered as a working population, and this is referred as demographic dividend. So this article tries to say that this education system can take this demographic dividend as an advantage and it could generate skilled labor force for our nation. And even this article tries to give in few suggestions that instead of bringing in detention at class 5th, our education system can focus on skills training. So this article tries to say that if a person is not doing good in its academics, then he can be trained as a school laborer. And also tries to say that many developed nations like Germany has been following the same educational technique and they have also achieved a great standard of living which has also brought them economic growth. So this article tries to say that it is not that the academics should be avoided, but it should be considered as an alternative. Even this article tries to talk about the provision for continuous and comprehensive evaluation, and this article tries to say that the principle is not followed accordingly with respect to the Right to Education Act. So this article tries to say that raising the quality of classroom teaching, continuous monitoring of teachers' attendance, and introduction of occasional training should be the priority. Even this article tries to say that having a narrow framework, that is testing children based upon the examination, may affect the underprivileged the most because they are the ones who are illiterate, and bringing them to the school education system would become difficult. So this article as a conclusion tries to say that a more open and liberal approach to schooling should be the priority, which should have long-term outcomes. So that's it with respect to this article, guys. We'll move on to the next article. So coming to the next article, let's talk about a supplemental income. See guys, before going into this article, we'll just look at the background first, because this article is all about the universal basic income and you need to know certain things about universal basic income. So we'll go to the background first, then to the article. Before universal basic income, you need to know what is the meaning of a basic income. See guys, a basic income is a form of social security in which all citizens or resident of a nation receives a regular sum of money. Fine. It may be either from the government or from any public institutions. For instance, if the basic income concept is applied to India, then a particular sum of money is given to a citizen from RBI or from the government. Fine. So this is called as basic income and its main objective is to ensure social security. Fine. So now the question comes, what makes it universal? See guys, everyone knows what is the meaning of basic income. Now what makes it universal is that it is not given to the household. Rather, it is paid to everyone. It is paid to each and every citizen. So this is what makes it universal. Now the universal basic income concept is keeping on changing with respect to the modernities. For instance, the basic income concept applicables even to other modes of transmission. For instance, it can be paid in the form of services, it can be paid in the form of food, or even it can be paid in the form of vouchers or DBT, that is direct benefit transfer. Fine. So the mode of transmission can be of any type, but the main objective is it tries to ensure social security. And many have suggested that the government will offer rupees 1,000 per month and to the families below the poverty line in India. Fine. And one more thing which you need to know with respect to universal basic income is that it is unconditional. That is, it does not ask a person to demonstrate work. That is, it does not require a person to work for the payment which the government makes. Fine. So you can remember in this way, it is a sort of gift which is given to a person. So it is unconditional and it is paid without a work, and even it does not ask a person to show his willingness to work. So it's like just taking money and giving in the hands of the people. Fine. And one important famous example with respect to the universal basic income is that it is Bolsa Familia. Guys, you please remember this. You can use this in your mains answer ready. See guys, this Bolsa Familia is introduced in Brazil. It is a form of basic income concept and a social welfare program of the Brazilian government where it provides financial aid to the poor Brazilian families. And this Bolsa Familia was severely under criticism, but this Bolsa Familia to an extent was quite successful in bringing people out of poverty. And even one more example with respect to the universal basic income concept is that it is called as social bestand. So even this is a social welfare program which is bought in Denmark. Fine. I hope the background is clear. So let's move on to the article. So coming to the article now, let's talk about a supplemental income. See guys, to tell about this article, it's a very interesting article and you have to read it once because this concept is very much important for your mains point of. So coming to the article now. So this article tries to say that there is a lot of discussion which is going around the universal basic income concept, that is in both developing nation and the developed nations. This concept is going on, and this article tries to say that the primary objective is to ensure that every citizen has a certain minimum income, and even this article tries to mention the term universal and tries to define it. It says that the term universal here refers to that the minimum or the basic income will be provided to everyone irrespective of whatever the current income is. Fine. So it will be provided to each and every citizens as we saw in the background. And even this article tries to say that the adoption of this universal basic income can impose a burden on the fisc which is beyond the capabilities of most developing countries including India. See guys, with the implementation of this universal basic income, the fiscal deficit could widen. The government expenditure may increase, which may burden the government. So this article tries to denote that, and this article tries to bring in three important questions. And the first question which the article tries to place is that whether the universal basic income should be universal or it should be restricted. See guys, I have told you universal means each and every citizens will be given a minimum income. I hope everyone can understand what is the meaning of restricted here. So with respect to India, whether this basic income concept should be universal or whether it should be restricted. And the second question which the article tries to place in is that what should be the level of minimum income and how it should be determined. That is, what is the amount which should be transferred and on what condition the amount should be fixed. So this is the second question which the article tries to place in. And the third question which the article tries to place in is with respect to the financing mechanism. See guys, I told you that there are many ways of financing this basic income. So this article tries to say is that what should be the medium for financing. So these are the three interesting questions which the article tries to place in, and it tries to explain these three important questions in this article. So first, this article tries to say is that whether one has to go for cash or services. And with respect to this question, this article tries to say is that this is a philosophical question, whether we have to support the vulnerable section with respect to the goods or services or with respect to the cashes. And even this article tries to say is that if we go in for cash, that is transmission of minimum income through cash, then this gives a discretion to the beneficiary where they can spend on their own will. And even this article tries to say is that when the money is directly given to the beneficiaries, then their decision has always been good, has always been wise, and it is generally assumed. And when talking about the cash transfer, this article also tries to compare it with respect to the goods and services. It tries to say that when we look into the provision of goods and services, then the government can achieve desired result. For instance, it tries to bring in the example of nutrition, health and education. See guys, I can give you an example here. For instance, if the government wants to enhance the nutrition of the people or the government want to enhance the malnutrition, then it can go in for PDS, public distribution system of food grains. Fine. So this article tries to say that while going for the transmission with respect to the goods and services, the government may attain certain objectives. But this article tries to say that in the provision of services, there is a concern of leakages and quality of services is taken into consideration, which is a cause of concern. So if one compares with the cash and goods and services, there are many pros and cons with respect to both. So what happens is many nations have adopted a middle path. So the middle path is that they go in for cash transfer with conditions. For instance, I will give you an example. See, I told you that Bolsa Familia is a universal basic income scheme of Brazil government. And one of the important point to be noted with respect to that scheme is that it transfer cash to the people, but it set a precondition that this cash should be utilized for education. And if one does not utilize the cash for the education, then the person is deemed to be disqualified under this scheme. Fine. So this is the middle path which many nations have followed. So this article tries to say that this is the middle path which many nations have taken with conditions. But however, with respect to India is concerned, it is difficult because we already have lot of services which is provided by the states. And this article tries to say that it is very difficult to cut down the services which is provided by the state and substitute them with the general income. See, if you take services, then government run institutions, government run hospitals, public distribution systems, there are many services which is provided by the state, which is indirectly an universal basic income concept. concept which tries to ensure social security. So this article tries to say that we cannot cut down them. At the same time, we cannot go in for full cash transfer because we are already providing the services. Fine. So this is the scenario which is prevailing in India. So this article tries to say that it is the poor quality of the service from the government run institution is a matter of concern now. So this need to be rectified. And with respect to the second question, that is whether it should be universal or restricted, this article tries to say that if we go in for universal basic income, that is providing income to all, then the present capabilities of the government is not up to the mark. That is, the government cannot do it because it will bring in a huge burden on the government. So we cannot go in for universal basic income. As the article mentioned, the provision of the income to one and all are beyond the capabilities of the present government budget. And even we also provide many subsidies. That is, this article tries to say that the subsidies are provided from bus fares to the power tariff. So there are varieties of subsidies which is provided by the government. So to cut down the subsidies and to go for cash transfer, that is to go in for universal basic income, is very difficult. So we need to reduce the numbers. We need to reduce the number of beneficiaries and we need to set a criteria. But there is a concern. There is a concern of identification and there is a concern of fairness. Because see, this universal basic income is very easy to implement, but the government lacks data. Feasibility is a critical question, and whether the desired result will reach the target is also a question. So this article tries to say that. And this article tries to say that the issue whether the scheme should be universal or restricted depends upon the level of the basic income that is proposed. See, for example, if the basic income happens to be 100 per year, then there is no need for identification of the beneficiaries. The government can go in for universal basic income. But if we have to go for the restriction, then obviously we will target the people who are below the poverty line. But here also rise the concern. There are many calculations for poverty. One could know that Sachin Tendulkar formula is there, Rangarajan committee formula is there. So there is no defined formula for poverty. And even though there are many calculations for poverty, many of the poverty line shows that more than 60% of the total poor lies between 75% of the poverty line and the poverty line. See, I would like to explain this point with an example. For instance, you think that rupees 200 is a minimum income required by a person to live above the poverty line. Sorry, make it 100. So you think minimum rupees 100 is required to live above a poverty line. And what this article tries to say is that 60% of the population earn rupees more than 75. Fine, I hope you got my point. So this is the scenario which is prevailing in India. So this plays a question whether we should fill the gap or whether we should go in for minimum income to attain the poverty. That is, whether we should give the minimum income of 100 rupees or whether we should give the poverty gap which is prevailing, that is rupees 25. Fine, I hope you got my point. So this article tries to say that there is a need to supplement to fill the poverty gap, and one alternative to this is MG Narega scheme. That is, what the article tries to say is the MG Narega scheme provides rupees 20,000 for a person in a year. So the supplement amount can be equal to this MG Narega amount. Fine. See, because there is an assumption that this MG Narega program has brought in many above the poverty line. So one could easily match the supplement amount which is required from this scheme. Fine. I hope my point is clear. And this article tries to come to the next question: who should be the beneficiary? And even this article tries to say that it is very difficult to cover entire population, and says that even providing one person per household with this minimum income will lead to 3.3% of the GDP. That is rupees 5 lakh crore per annum. But this article tries to say that there is a feasibility of only 1.5 to 2% of the GDP, that is 2 lakh to 3 lakh crore per annum. Fine. See, in a nutshell, for implementing this universal basic income, we need 5 lakh crore. But there is a feasibility of only 3 lakh crore to an extent. Fine. So we need to restrict the total cost. So for restricting the total cost, we need to identify the beneficiaries. And this article tries to say that one way of identifying the beneficiaries is that we could limit to women, that is above the age 45. See, it is only one idea which the article tries to give in. So this article tries to say that this is an easy identifiable criteria because Aadhaar card has all the data and even it has the feature of age. Fine. However, this is only one alternative which the article tries to place in. So there may be other alternatives. So this article tries to say that if we we implement the scheme with respect to the women, then there could be an expenditure of 2 lakhs crore, which must reduce the poverty at least to half. And this article tries to say that the feasibility of raising even 2 lakhs crore is not very easy, and tries to say that many have given their suggestion that one could remove all the exemptions in our tax systems, which could give us enough money. See, what does it tries to say is that the government provides many exemptions in tax saving schemes. For instance, you invest in mutual funds, we will give you exemption from the tax. So these sort of exemptions can be avoided, and even this article tries to say that apart from removing these sort of exemptions, one has to reduce the expenditure of the government. So reducing the expenditure of the government means some schemes has to be sacrificed. So this article tries to say that one could phase out the MG Narega schemes. So in this year budget, the expenditure on MG Narega scheme was nearly about 40,000 crores. So this article tries to say that while cutting down the MG Narega scheme, it could be a saving factor for the government. And even this article tries to say that even fertilizer subsidies could be considered, even it could be eliminated, and even we could ask the higher income group people to forego the supplemental income. Fine. Even this will reduce the expenditure. See, even the same logic was applied in Give It Up campaign. One could see with respect to the LPG subsidies. So that's what this article tries to mention here. So this article tries to say that introducing the universal basic income is unrealistic, because in India, universal basic income cannot be implemented. See, it does not say basic income can be implemented. It says that universal basic income cannot be implemented. Fine. So there is a difference between the both. So this article tries to say that it is the concept of supplemental income which can be implemented. Fine. So it is not the universal basic income. It will be the supplemental income. So the basic income should be turned to the supplemental income. Such a scheme should be feasible provided we restrict the beneficiaries and we identify the beneficiaries, as it will also come from fiscal compulsions. That is, this will widen the fiscal deficit, and it is not possible to remove all the subsidies. So government has to view this in a more practical way. So we have to reduce the expenditure and we have to raise the revenue, and the proposal can also be made by the state government. See guys, what we saw is with respect to the central government, even state government can help the central government by reducing the burden of the central government. Fine. So I hope the article is understood. So to tell in a crux format, this article tries to say that the universal basic income should be implemented, but it will widen the fiscal deficit. Whether we have to go for the cash or the goods and services modes of transmission, whether it should be universal or restricted, that is, whether it should be universal or supplemented, and who should be the beneficiary. I hope while reading this article, you can analyze yourself to give an efficient answer. Fine. So that's it with respect to this article.